Hi, I'm Dan Schmitt. I do a weekly television show called Team Chicago Challenge. My website is teamchicago.tv, and eventually I'm going to start working on my website again. You're going to see new stuff on my website somewhere in the next 2 or 3 months. But anyhow, website is teamchicago.tv. My email is teamdan45@gmail.com. And I'd love to hear from my audience. If you see these clips and you want to send me an email, I will respond. Lucky for me, I have my granddaughter, Heather, is going to join me, and we're going to start in 2002. So these are very exciting times for me and for Team Chicago. And I think Heather's got a great question for me. And because there's a couple other things I was doing besides racing motorcycles.
Well, firstly, before we get into anything else, I wanted to ask you about Roadog, that gigantic bike. We watched some of the production with that.
Right.
And I wanted to ask you just more about that. And yeah, and then also too, I had another question with the Nixon thing. I want you to tell me more about that. And
right. Well, we're looking at the one page of Roadog right now. It's an interesting story. Buzz Walneck, who does Walneck Swamp Meets. Buzz Walneck that did Walneck's Classic Trader magazine. I mean, it was a very popular magazine at that time. There was a picture of Roadog. I'm going to show you the picture of Roadog. And it was up in many, many motorcycle shops in Chicago. And Buzz just wanted to make a copy of that. And nobody would really take it off the wall and lend him a copy, figuring he wasn't going to bring it back or whatever. So Buzz ran an ad, and he wanted to get his own picture. When they found out it was for sale. So he went and bought it. So it's a very interesting story. The guy that built it was a genius. He worked for Hughes Aircraft. I mean, he was a very intelligent guy, but he wanted to build his own motorcycle. And he built Roadog with an automotive engine, with a Chevy engine, because he was getting tired of motorcycle engines that were unreliable, because he loved to ride on the highway. And he ended up building his own brand later, another bike called the Auto 4 that he created his own company. So Buzz hired me. He had another production company that started this operation, and they never finished the production. But he had the right to that film, that video. So I got that video. I had my interviews with Buzz, and there's some video of Buzz riding Roadog. And at that time, I didn't have a computerized editing system, and seeing all these, there was VHS tape, there was 3/4 inch tape, there was beta tape. It was easier for me to work with Jim Mukin, who had our Duke production, and I did the directing, he did the basically editing. At the end, I added in more footage later, and I intend to re-edit that whole thing, because Roadog is now at the American Motorcycle Museum, National Motorcycle Museum in Iowa, and I'm going to be doing a show from there this year also. So we'll get to see Roadog again. So it's an interesting story. I interviewed Buzz again earlier this year. It's a great story, and I'm going to show you a little bit of a clip of Roadog.
I'm from Chicago just to see what he could find. Leave the city, he said I'll leave it far behind. And took off riding down the open road till he found a place to settle down. Can you hear him riding in the wind? I wish that he could fly once again. You hear him riding in the wind. Wild Bill is a legend. He had a dream, wouldn't pass him by. He told himself, I'm gonna build my own damn bike. The longest bike I'd ever seen. Wild Bill Gilkey, just a following his dreams. Can you hear him riding in the wind? I wish that he could fly once again. You hear him riding in the wind. Wild Bill is a legend.
So I also wanted to ask you about the Gary Nixon story, and you had shown me some videos about that, and I wanted to ask you, you know, where did you get this footage, and where did you get the music for it all, and, you know, how did you put all of that together?
You know, I sometimes amaze myself. How I do these things, I look back at it now, I don't know how I did it. Gary Nixon, after I did doing the interview and all that, I found out that Gary Nixon had a very serious crash in Japan.
Oh.
Knocked some teeth out, broke a couple legs. I mean, when he came back to America, they had to rent 6 seats in the airline so he could lay in the airline. They even sent a nurse with him. That's how bad he was injured, and he lost teeth. Just by chance, my good friend Bill Cavellis, who's a dentist, Bill Cavellis also was a great admirer of Gary Nixon. He even painted his helmet to look like Gary Nixon's helmet. So when Gary Nixon spotted that helmet at some race, he went over to talk to Bill. Bill turned out to be a dentist. Bill's in Chicago. Gary Nixon started flying into Chicago and hanging out in Chicago as Bill built them all new dentures. Gary was the national champ, AMA national champ, 1967, 1968. That's before I got into racing. He dominated Santa Fe Speedway before I got to race at Santa Fe Speedway. So I really know Gary back then. Great guy. Through Bill, I got to meet Gary, and it was great, you know, getting to know him. He mentioned to me that he had all this film converted over to VHS tape. And he said, would you like to see it? And I got a couple of tapes and I took it home and I'm looking at it. And he said pictures, he had one photographer probably took 1,000 pictures of them. You know, they were real good friends. He would take pictures of Gary, and then Gary ended up getting in a magazine. The more time your picture's in a magazine, more popular you are as a motorcycle racer.
Right.
So Gary and I finally sat down and said, we gotta do a story. I mean, that's what I wrote about on that page there. So we're planning to do it at Daytona. And we even set up a place, we were going to do it at the racetrack. It was way too noisy. Then we were going to do it in the parking lot by the hotel where he was staying in Daytona. Way too noisy, too many things going on. It was nearly impossible. My good friend, Al Bloom, has got the most beautiful garage in the nation. So and he's a Triumph guy. Al Bloom is Mr. Triumph, race Triumph, track champion at Sycamore Speedway. So we did it at Al Bloom's garage, and I searched and got all the results for Gary starting in 1960 on the national circuit. When Gary had those results in front of him, he could then start telling the stories. Putting this thing together was great fun, and probably one of the biggest selling videos I ever did, because Gary, on VHS tape, he sold hundreds of them because he would carry them with him and he would autograph the tape boxes and,
Right, yeah.
and sell the tapes. And then the DVDs, we switched over, and I'll show you the artwork. I laid all that artwork on the DVDs. So hundreds and hundreds of copies have been sold by him, and I still sell copies of the Gary Nixon story. But if you want to know the history of racing from the 1960s, 59 through 70, this is a great 3-hour video from Gary Nixon. And Gary was a great guy. And I'm so lucky I got to know him. And my good friend Bill Cavellis, George Mack, Al Bloom were all part of this. Linda Bloom were all part of this production. And it was big fun.
That's amazing.
I picked this clip of Gary riding his 500 Triumph off-road with his friends. It reminds me of the good old days when I rode my 650 Triumph in the woods.
60s kind of talking about training. Everett Brashear's kind of guy that turned me onto it. He said, if you're going to be a motorcycle racer, you need to be riding a motorcycle all the time. So like I say, in the mid-60s, I had my own shop, and it was right by a railroad track. Which used to go out of my shop, get on the railroad track, ride that down, and actually a garbage dump is what it was. It was originally a sand pit, and then they were starting to put garbage in it on one end of it. But that was kind of one of the places I had the sand pit. And then if you went under Interstate 83 on one of the little bridges that you go across, had about an 8-mile track that I could run up through. Back in those days, they didn't have houses and stuff, and just made it once. The cops couldn't catch you, right?
So, Grandpa, another thing that I did want to ask you about is, tell me about the championship of 2002, and I'm really curious as to how you were even able to do all of that with everything else that you had going on, you know, with the Gary Nixon shooting and all of that stuff that you had. So, how did you do that? How did you manage?
Well, the whole WERA National Endurance Series is my first love. I found trophies at home in 1981, 1982, riding with Buzz Pritz, the WERA National Endurance Series. Finally, with Dave Hendrickson in 1995, Team Chicago became a big part of the National Endurance Series. I have to always thank Evelyn at WERA, Buzz Pritz at WERA. Buzz, he passed away recently, and he was very instrumental in saving WERA. And Dennis Torres, who was doing all the video, because with Dennis Torres' video and my video, I could put these great TV shows together. So every year I could do 20 shows or 21 shows with the WERA National Endurance Series. And figure it was only 52 shows a year. It was a great happening. I mean, it was, and I was so lucky to be able to race those races. Also, because of Yamaha dealers, 4 and 6 Racing, Jimmy and Ed, and all the guys at 4 and 6, all that backing I had. Steve Brubaker, Dunlop Tires, were giving us the greatest tires we could race with. And in 2002, our good friend Phil Caudill joined Team Chicago. So once we won the championship in '99, we were one of the top WERA teams. Vesra Brakes became part, giving us all the brakes we needed. I mean, we were getting a lot of help. Not so much money, but we were winning Yamaha contingency money. We were getting contingency coupons from Dunlop. So things were really happening. And Phil Caudill, who won the championship in 2000 with Moto Heaven, he joined us. And Phil and Steve were real good friends. Steve Karson, I mean, everything depends on Steve Karson, I think. Steve Karson was really the go-fast guy. Phil was as fast as Steve. I'm just a solid guy in the background, but I have to ride. I'm not no team sponsor. I enjoy riding as much as I can. So I'm going to show you 3 clips, and that's how we're going to wrap this up. You're going to look in here before I start the clips. Turn the pages. There's the one part art that I did about the championship right there. Then right there's a picture of Phil. There's the actual results there from the banquet with the points with Team Chicago. Turn the page again. WERA gives me a certificate there, claiming that we're the champions. There's a great picture of Steve Karson. It all came together, but I'm going to show you 3 of the races.
As we wait for the start of the first race of the 2002 season, the WERA National Endurance Series. 2 board up, 1 board sideways, and the 2002 season kicks off at No Problem Raceway. The second season for No Problem. It's a new track on the WERA National Series. Great facilities as the teams head out to the tightest corner. You got 2 right-handers. Head back. This fast straightaway to a quick right and left. Steve Karson on the Team Chicago 4 and 6 prepared Yamaha dealers.
Steve ran great for the first hour, and then there was a red flag. When I took over during the second hour, the Texas team, Garage Tech, and Team Life from Pennsylvania got by us. As I chased down this other bike down the front straightaway, you can see this is a very challenging track. And I turned the bike back over to Steve, and he went to work getting us back into the lead.
Steve Karson has now gotten around Garage Tech. We may be able to make up that lap. They got us listed 1 lap down. It seems like there was about a half hour. Oh, Garage Tech is going in to make a pit stop. Steve may have time to unlap us. Boy, we may still be able to win this race. As Garage Tech, whoa, red flag. Red flag. So red flag comes out, got a bike down in turn 4. Team Life, number 85, who was right in front of Steve, they just pulled off with a dead battery. Oh no, we could have won this thing. At least won our class, but anyhow, Vezra went on to pick up the win.
When the red flag came out, there was only 30 minutes left in the race. The scoring went back to the lap before the red flag. While they're in the pits, Garage Tech is scored with finishing 9th overall, and they won Middleweight SuperStock. Team Life was scored 13th with their dead battery, and Team Chicago, we ended up 14th. I feel we got robbed of the win. And now we're at Texas World. Team Life with Kevin Warner and Joe Malinese are leading in the points. They've had lady luck on their side ever since the first race of the season in Louisiana. They are leading in points in the middleweight superstock class. They have 21 points over Team Chicago as we come to Texas World.
Let's get into the 4th hour of racing, and Steve Karson is on the Team Chicago 4 and 6 prepared Yamaha dealers, Race Tire Service Dunlop, Coming off the front straightaway, it's Steve Karson chasing down Team Life. Joe Malinese is on Team Life as Steve Karson comes through turn 1 and 2 on the gas. He is on the charge. We got to make up some distance. We have moved into second place in class. We're running in 8th place overall. Team Life is right in front of us. We're on the same lap.
As I enter the racetrack, and my job is to stay on the same lap as Kevin Warner. Now, Kevin Warner is a much faster rider than I. I cannot allow him to lap us. I have to stay on the same lap or beat Kevin during my 45-minute stint out here at Texas World. We are running the long track at Texas World. We ran this track last year, and I feel very comfortable, and I feel very fast.
Turn the bike over to Phil. Team Life made a pit stop right before us. Then we made the pit stop. They've got a 20-second advantage. Phil's mission is to chase down Joe Malinese and get by him if we're going to be victorious in Texas. As Phil Caudill comes by in the Team Chicago 4 and 6 prepared Yamaha. Phil is flying out there. He's making tracks, turning 51s, 52s. Fent Racing, the local team, is running in 4th place. And yet Ice Motorsports and Joe Malinese and Team Life comes by. Phil Caudill has caught Team Life. And Team Chicago is now in the lead. As we get to the end with the flag, it is WERA Suzuki picking up the win. Phil Caudill comes by. Team Chicago, we have finally won a race, a 6-hour, a grueling 6-hour in Texas.
When we came to Texas, I told Steve and Phil if we wanted to win the championship, we had to win in Texas. At Road Atlanta, it rained in the morning before the race began. Was it going to rain all day?
The start of the final GMD CompuTrack National Endurance at Road Atlanta.
Team Chicago started on Dunlop rain tires. We felt it was going to rain all day. Team Life started on Pirelli intermediate tires, hoping that it would dry out eventually and they would have an advantage. Steve Karson is the rain master. On the Dunlop rain tires, Steve Karson is very, very fast, as you see him running in the top 5. When he turned the bike over to me for the second hour, I was ready.
As I get around Joe Malinese, the Dunlop rain tires are working great. The bike's looking good, and I'm running good. We're in 9th place. Team Velocity 120. We thought they'd be a threat, but they're running into problems.
When I turned the bike over to Phil Caudill, he ran a good, solid race in the rain, but I did allow Team Out of Sight to get by me during my 1-hour stunt. Steve Karson got by Team Out of Sight, and we were now leading Middleweight SuperStock, looking for another win in that class. WERA Suzuki was leading at Road Atlanta, and they claimed the national title and won heavyweight superbike, and the red flag flew with 20 minutes left in the race. That was it at Road Atlanta. Steve Karson brings the Team Chicago R6 back into the pits.
Steve Karson brings the Team Chicago 4 and 6 Yamaha into the pits. He's wondering, did we win it? Yes, we did. We went on to pick up the win in the points. Team Chicago, we finished 768 points. The team life, 744 points. We turned a 9.9 deficit into a 22-point game. We have won the championship.
Well, Gramps, how exciting was that, being in the rain and doing all that?
Well, I don't pretend to be I'm an okay rain rider. But because Steve gave us such a huge advantage, we just had to ride around. And there is a little clip that you've seen there where I did pass Joe Malinese. So I did what I had to do too. Phil was magnificent. Steve ran the most, and it was a great championship. And I am happy to say, I mean, if I've only won 2 national titles, one in the 20th century and one in the 21st century. So that's pretty, like I say, you're my 20th century fox because you're the last of the 20th century. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's enough for this week. We're going to come back next week and we're going to continue on telling the stories. And I have some great adventures and great stories to tell you.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Heather. I'm having such a great time putting these shows together with my granddaughters and looking back at some great racing action and some good old friends. For more information on WERA, America's Road Race Leader, it's WERA.com. WERA.com for more info on WERA. Contact me, it's teamdan45@gmail.com. I love to hear from my audience. And remember, you can always search on YouTube with Dan Schmitt Motorcycle Racing for great motorcycle racing action.